Hello. In the third episode of Perspectification, here's an interesting question for you. A runway trolley is fast moving on a track towards five workers who are working on the track. There is no way the trolley can be stopped in time, nor the workers informed. You find yourself in a strange situation. You find a lever next to you, and you realize that if I pull the lever, I can shift the track. But there's a catch. You see that on the track 2, there is a lone worker working. If you make the switch, you will save the lives of 5 people. Will you definitely do this at the cost of taking the life of that one lone worker? Would you make a switch? Why don't you pause the video here and think about it? And in fact, it will be good that before watching the rest of the video, you type out your response, because I'm going to ask you a bunch of other questions. And if you look back at what you answered and how, it will be very useful for you. Now, chances are that you chose that you should switch the tracks. A painful choice, but a better decision nonetheless, because the logic, the moral reasoning, taking a life of one person is better than taking life of 5 people. This is a sort of a utilitarian moral reasoning that seems to define most of what we do in our everyday life. That a decision is morally right if it results in net more wellness of humankind. And hence, even though there is pain in the decision, you take the decision. In fact, 90% of people, whenever this exercise, this simulation is done, has been done globally, the results have been more or less consistent. Almost 90% of people believe that switching is a better choice. There are variations based on which country, which ethnicity, what kind of people, etc. But in almost all the scenarios, majority tend to believe, a significant majority tend to believe that better to switch, because one life better than taking 5 lives. Okay. Now let me give you a variant, an interesting variant, which is called the bridge variant. Now imagine you are confronted with the same situation. That runway trolley is moving very fast. There are 5 workers, but this time there is no option to switch. There is a singular track. Now you find yourself standing on top of a bridge and the trolley is going to go underneath. You seem helpless, but you suddenly realize there's a guy standing next to you. It's a bulky, fat guy leaning over, and suddenly this thought comes to your mind. If you were to push that guy down the bridge, and the guy falls in front of the trolley, then given the weight of the guy, the weight would be enough to stop the trolley in time to save these 5 people. Would you do that? Similar situation. If you take the life of one person, save 5, act is different. You're not switching tracks, but you are consciously pushing the guy down the bridge, killing that guy in order to do what is right based on the logic that we just discussed. Would you do it? Again, think about it. Type in the comment section below, and then we will revisit. There are a few more interesting questions that I'm going to ask you. Now, chances are that this time you would not be comfortable making a decision. You will not make a decision. In fact, in the first scenario, the same audience, 90% people said, I will make a switch because taking 1 life better than taking 5 lives. But when in a similar setting, the same audience is asked, only 10% or so say, I will do it. 90% are undecisive. They would not do it. Why? Do you see the dilemma? Do you see the conflict? Objectively look at the situation. It's exactly the same situation. You have the option to take a decision. The decision results in you taking life of one person, saving 5, Very easy decision, stage 1. Very difficult or a different decision in the alternate variation. Why does this take place? Interesting, isn't it? And does it not tell something about how our minds work? I will come to this topic of why the conflict was different. Why different conflicts in our mind, and why most of us decide the way we decide differently. Let me give you an alternate scenario. Okay. Now, this time you find yourself as a surgeon in a hospital. There has been an accident. An ambulance comes. You have 5 people injured in front of you. And the 6th one who comes is gravely injured. You know for sure that the 6th guy needs immediate medical attention because he is in a very bad situation. The other 5 are also injured, but not so badly. But obviously, if you don't give them treatment in time, they will also die. Now you're confronted with the same situation. You can try to save first guy. You are a very competent surgeon. You know you will be able to save the first guy, but he is so gravely injured that it will take you the entire day. And if you focus on that guy, because there is no other surgeon in the hospital to take care of the other 5 will die. Would you make the same choice? Would you focus on the 5 guys and save them rather than focusing on one who is very gravely injured? Again, do the same thing. Type out your response below. I'll take a pause. Now, chances are that your decision this time was similar to the decision that you took when the switching of track situation was presented in front of you. You will say, I will focus on saving the lives of 5 less injured people, because saving the lives of 5 people at the cost of 1 life is a better choice. Seems logical. Now let me present you the bridge variation in this scenario. Now imagine the same thing happens. 5 people come to you. In this case, they are all very ill. All of them require an organ transplant. One requires a liver, second a heart, third a lung, fourth something else, fifth something else. And you know that if those transplants were not done, they will die today. Now you suddenly realize that in the next room, a young guy has just come with a broken leg, and you have been treating him for the broken leg injury. Now this thought comes to your mind. If you were to kill that guy and harvest his organs, you will be able to save 5 ill people in the other room. Will you make the choice? Would you kill that guy, harvest those 5 organs, and save the lives of 5 ill patients in the other room? Go ahead, type your response in the comments below. I'm going to take a pause. Chances are that your brain, your mind will not allow you to do that. Your decision is going to be like the decision in case in the earlier scenario when you were on top of the bridge and the choice was push this guy down, kill this guy, and save 5 lives. You will be very hesitant, or perhaps very clear, this is not something that I will do. So you see the same repeated dilemma or a pattern here, and there are many such examples I can give you to illustrate how your mind reacts. At a fundamental level, if I were to argue, if you were sitting next to me and we were arguing, hey buddy, why are you doing this? Why are you deciding differently? The situation is exactly the same. In the first case, you let one person die. or in the first case, when you switched the lever, a track, by moving the lever, you knew that that lone worker on the other track who was not supposed to be in the path is going to die. Whether you like it or not, you decided to take his life to save the lives of the 5 people. Why would you, in this case, not go to the other room and take the life of that person, the young guy who has a leg injury, and save the life of 5 others? Why? What is so different? Now, I'm sure all of you will have some reactions. You will argue, but if you really think, you will get down to a situation. Most of you, where you will realize, yeah, I know this is what I'll do, but I get your point. I'm not clear. And you are not alone. As I said, it's a variation of 90% deciding for one and then 10% deciding for scenario 2. Even though factually, from a utilitarian perspective, that scenario is the same. So why does this happen? Before that, let me address one more point. There's a lot of debate that happens around simulation exercises like this, and a lot of psychologists, a lot of people who believe that this is a hypothetical intellectual exercise. It doesn't mean anything. It's not reality. We're just confusing everybody. I believe this is important because these moral dilemmas are central to not just how we live. We will live. We have been living for hundreds of thousands of years, and we will continue to survive till we survive. But we are getting into a world. Look at what artificial intelligence is doing. Look at the whole phenomena of self-driving cars. It's here and now. In very near future, you will find self-driving cars flying over the on the roads all the time. Now imagine this scenario. And this is a question of where a moral decision has to be taken by a car. If you are not able to understand and analyze this, how will you code this behavior into those autonomous cars? And that's just one example. How will you teach machines how to take moral decisions when we ourselves are not able to agree and justify why we behave the way we behave? We are perhaps highly confused organisms. Imagine the same scenario. A autonomous car is going, and then you see another car coming from the side. You know, all your mathematical calculations show you that this is going to result in a fatal accident. Now, the other car that is sort of fast coming and bound to sort of collide with you, there are 5 people inside the car. You suddenly realize just next to you, there is a person who's walking on a walkway, doing nothing wrong. But you suddenly realize if you were to just shift right and cross, you may prevent that accident from happening. But in doing so, you will actually have to go over the walkway and you will kill that one guy. That innocent guy who's walking and doing what he was supposed to do. But in doing so, you will save the lives of 5 people in this car. How should a car decide? It's the same moral dilemma. I think understanding how we do, what should we do is an important part. And that's going to have implications beyond us. Because we are getting into a world where men and machines will work next to each other, and the kind of machines, autonomous machines that will be all around, would need to sort of deal with this dimension of moral reasoning, and as opposed to the standard reasoning that we talk about. Finally, let me talk about why this conflict in the way we think. I was having this conversation with my wife yesterday. And I played the scenario, and I wanted to play this scenario so that I can sort of make some mental notes before I do this video. And logically, the conversation went into the same scenario, same conflicts. Yes for one, no for second. Yes for the first hospital scenario, no for the second hospital scenario. And I was asking why. And she being what she is, and she knows how to sort of throw it back. He said, "Why are you asking me? You tell me. Why am I behaving like this?" And I was trying to explain to her, and in fact, I've been researching, I've been thinking a lot about this topic, because this whole notion of how our minds work is something that is very, very close to my heart. And sometimes I believe that, are we really in control of our minds? Our minds, in my belief, they are like machines. These are circuits in brains, electrical circuits in the brains, which are firing, and how they fire and when they fire results in our behavior. We may be believing that we are deciding, but are we? And more I think about it, I think it's truly not. I'm sort of struggling now to believe that truly there is something like free will. Do I really decide? Or what I think I decide is a result of how my brain, which is an electrical organ, is behaving. And understanding that, I think, gives good insights about how you're programmed, and hopefully you can use it to train yourself into how you behave. So here is my understanding. Now, if you look at human mind, and I'm going to super simplify it for making a point, and if you're interested, I will urge you to research more. Typically, if you see, there are different parts of the brain which have different circuits that operate differently. At a very fundamental level, there is a logical part of the brain, the utilitarian perspective, which is a part of your brain circuit which fires when you look at a situation and you analyze and you figure out this is a right decision to take, the utilitarian perspective that I was talking about. Then there is this emotional center of your brain. It fires when your emotions are very high. What are these emotions? And again, I'm going to super simplify it. Over hundreds and thousands of years of evolution of life, a fundamental thing that is sort of programmed into our minds is the instinct to survive. And there is a primal instinct to survive, which is about surviving, living, and making sure we survive, our progeny survives. But then as human minds have evolved, that has resulted in a slightly more evolved form of evolution, survival. And that's really about not just surviving, but surviving well. How do you survive well? You survive well when you minimize guilt. If there's a lot of guilt, it doesn't allow you to sort of survive well. So now what is happening is, when you're confronted with any situation, there are these two parts of your mind. One who's logically, analytically analyzing and saying, okay, makes sense. You're maximizing benefit. And there is a second part, which is more emotional part of your brain, where the circuit is programmed around these notions of primal instincts of survival and the higher instincts of surviving or thriving or reducing the sense of stress and guilt that you have. And the way we are programmed is, or you can call this the empathy center of your mind, if I may, and I'm sort of generalizing the statement. The way this works is that whether you like it or not, when you're confronted with a situation, this is the circuit which is sort of selling, what if I were in the same situation? When you see something bad happen to somebody, whether you're consciously feeling or not, the sort of primal dimension of empathy is, hey, this could have happened to me, to somebody I know. And that fundamental sense of surviving, that gets you emotional. Imagine a situation where if you have to take a decision that a missile is going to be launched and there is a big terrorist hideout and it will get destroyed and it will potentially save thousands of innocent people, but you know that there is going to be some collateral damage. There are people, workers working there, the cook is there, there are other innocent people there. You take a decision and you say, the first switch decision, it's collateral damage, it's okay. But imagine the same situation where you are confronted with somebody and say, here is that person standing next to you. And then you have given a gun in your hand, you say, you have to shoot this person. Otherwise, we will shoot many. And you can look at that person. The person looks more like you. The head and the size. And if you are looking at that person, you are looking at the eyes, you're looking at the fear in the person. That results in emotion. So the more close we are, where we can relate to a situation where I were there, the emotional reaction is high. And ultimately, there is in our brain a part of the brain which deals with conflicts. It is that circuit which fires when there is high conflict. So ultimately, very simplistic sort of understanding of the view is, there is conflict 1. logical, there's sort of circuit 1 which is saying logically makes sense. Circuit 2 which says, oh, there is emotional duress. And based on the interplay of this, there is this conflict part of the brain firing. And in fact, there are many studies that have been done when such exercises are done. You find that in the bridge variants, the scenario 2 of each of the story that or the situation that I told, the conflict part of the brain is firing. And when there's conflict, it doesn't allow you to decide. You get paralyzed as far as your ability to decide is concerned. Okay. So that's what I wanted to sort of talk to you. You can think about it. There's a lot more to talk about it. I don't want to sort of sound over preachy about this topic. I think the purpose behind this third episode of Perspectification was to sort of present the story and show you how your minds work. In reality, this is a machine that is programmed. And different people's mind are programmed slightly different depending on how they are brought up, what kind of ethnicity, religion, country, situation you are coming to. So there is fundamental thing that is coded into circuits, and then these circuits are evolved based on the kind of life that you run. And therefore, you decide, you do what you decide. Now, you cannot fundamentally, in my opinion, sort of change or reprogram at will. But being aware as to how your brains work allows you to sort of think about situation. Next time you are in a situation and you're finding it difficult, you know what's happening inside. Even though you don't control it, you know what's happening in mind. Hopefully, this understanding and appreciation of what's happening inside will allow you to exercise that additional judgment that you can do. Whatever that element of free will exists, let it be a party at the decision table and decide well. Thank you very much. I hope this was a useful conversation. I would love to hear from you as to what thoughts came in your mind after listening to this video. And I'm looking forward to coming back to you with more. Thank you very much.